I would like to announce the next talk and the speaker, Eldert Grootenboer. Eldert is a senior program manager at Microsoft, Azure MVP, technology lead, cloud solution architect, blogger, public speaker, and technical author. He enjoys sharing his knowledge with the community and believes that this is the best way to each other obtain more and better opportunities. Today, Eldert will talk about the latest and greatest from Azure Service Bus.
Welcome! I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. I hope everyone is staying safe. I wish we could do this in person, but unfortunately not this time. Hopefully next time. So with that, let's start the session. So I'm going to talk today about the latest and greatest from Azure Service Bus. So a quick introduction about myself. I'm Eldert Grootenboer. I work for Microsoft and I work actually as the program manager for Azure Service Bus. So what that means is that I basically make sure that the service adheres to your wishes, to your standards, and that we build something that our customers want to use and that will be good to go forward for the next coming years. So you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Twitter. You can email me. And with that, let's start the session. So what can you expect today? So of course we're going to talk about Service Bus, but what are we going to talk about? So first a quick introduction in what is Service Bus. Not everyone here might know it, not everyone here might know when to use it, but just a quick introduction, when to use it, why to use it. And then we are going to do the actual interesting parts. Because first of all, we are going to look at the recent releases. So what did we release at Ignite, which is just like a few days ago? What did we release there, and why did we release this? We're also going to have a look at what's coming soon. So what are we working on at the moment and what is actually coming in the next couple of months. And finally, we are going to have a look at the roadmap. And when I say look at the roadmap, this is really stuff that is like farther out, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, maybe it's something that you are still working on, maybe it's something that we are designing. So let's have a look at that. And for all of this, I'm going to show you, or at least explain to you, how did we build this. So I'm going to explain how did we build this and why did we build this. So with that, let's go get started. So like I said, first a quick introduction into what is Azure Service Bus. So what is Azure Service Bus actually? Azure Service Bus is a platform as a service, queue and pub/sub message broker. So what does it mean? So Azure Service Bus is our Azure's platform to create queues and topics. So queues, you push something in, someone else retrieves the message from it, each message is consumed by one consumer, so really a queue. And topics and subscriptions allow us to introduce pub/sub next to this. And so pub/sub is I push one message into a topic, I have one or multiple subscribers that can receive this, and we can do things like routing, filtering, etc. And each subscription can have one or multiple subscribers, but each message is consumed by one subscriber per subscription. Of course, this is running on Azure, it's a platform as a service, so it's also fully managed. So we take care of the message broker for you, you just use the features. We take care of everything else. Service Bus is ook fully AMQP 1.0 compliant, so anything that you can do with any other AMQP client, like RabbitMQ or something like that, you can also do with Service Bus. You can even just change connection strings and we'll change this around. We are also JMSS 2.0 compliant, so for example if you are using ActiveMQ, IBM or something like that, you can also very easily switch from that to Service Bus. So we try to be very compliant with open standards. Also, we have a polyglot Azure SDK, so we have multiple languages that we support. Of course .NET, which is of course the best language, but also Java, Go, Python, JavaScript and many others. And we also provide cross-platform client support. So you can run your client wherever you want. And this is really important because it allows you to work where you want, with technology that you want, in the way that you want. And we have industry-leading reliability and availability. So we are really looking into how can we make this as reliable as possible. So at the moment our official A is 3 nines, but in practice we see about 5 nines. And even more, because in practice you will probably use the SDKs, and the SDKs have a lot of mechanisms built in like retries, etc., that even allow you to get even more reliability out of that. So if you use our SDKs with our service, you will not see any messages lost, and you will see only like very few issues at all, and those will be solved automatically about most of the time. And of course, we integrate with other Azure services. So we integrate with Event Grid, we integrate with Logic Apps, we integrate with Azure Functions, with the Power Platform, Stream Analytics. So there's a lot of integration going on there, which makes it very easy to create complete solutions with all these different services that connect very easily to each other. So within Service Bus, we have three different SKUs or tiers. So first we have our basic tier. And this really is about basically just development stuff. So we only support queues there, so no topics, no pops up. And we only support schedule messages, but none of the other cool stuff that we actually do on the other tiers. So it becomes more interesting on the standard tier. So on the standard tier you have both queues and topics, which means you can do just normal queues, but also that pops up. And we also have much more interesting stuff, like we can do transactions, we can do deduplication, where we actually, if you send in the same message twice, we will actually remove the second message, so your client only gets that once. You can do sessions where you can have ordering with parallel ordering. You can send messages via another queue to another queue. But important here is that it does only support up to 256 kilobytes. Now, if you want to have all the nice stuff, all the interesting stuff, then you come to the premium tier. And this, of course, is where all the enterprise stuff is and all the really cool stuff is. So then next to everything that you already had on standard, here you also have large message support. So you can actually go up to 100 megabytes. You have resource isolation. So you actually get your own resources, like your own CPU, your own memory, that's dedicated for you. On the standard tier, you can run into noisy neighbors because you are running on the same hardware, on the same resources that our other customers are running on. So if someone is sending a lot of messages, that might impact you. If you don't want this, you need to be on the premium tier because then you actually get your own resources. We support GeoDR, currently only for metadata, but more on that in a bit. Like I said, we support JMS 2.0, fully compliant, and we also have availability zone support on premium. So it actually allows you to say, I want to have availability zones, which means that your message will be replicated in 3 different data centers in the same zone. So our others, all messages are already always replicated 3 times, so even on standard, but it will be replicated 3 times in the same data center. Availability zones will actually give you more insurance because it will be in different data centers. So even if one data center goes down for any reason, it will still be available in 2 other availability zones, and it will just come back up again without you having to do anything. So Service Bus is part of Azure Messaging. And so I want to quickly just show where would you use Service Bus versus those other services. So Service Bus is really about that pool style, queue-based transfer of jobs, of control, via messages and queues and topics. So you have a sender that sends something in, either via AMQP or via web services. It puts it on the queue, it gets an acknowledgement, it's now in the queue, and then your consumer, your client, can come in and retrieve that message. So that is really what this is about. Another service that's part of Azure Messaging is Event Hubs. And so Event Hubs is partitioned, high volume, tape drive style sequential recording. With unlimited pool style rereads of event streams. So this is really about streams of events. And you can send this in over AMQP and web services, but also via Kafka protocol. So you can actually just change your Kafka application, change the connection string to the Event Hubs connection string, and it will just work. So this is really cool if you are already working with this kind of services. And third one is Event Grid. And Event Grid is push-style distribution of discrete events to serverless workloads. So 2 important parts here. It's push-style. So Service Bus and Event Hubs are push-pull. So you push something in, but the client pulls it out. With Event Grid, you push something in, and then Event Grid pushes it out to all its consumers. And it is about discrete events. So Event Hubs was about a stream of events. So all events that belong together. Where Event Grid is about discrete events. So these are just events, hey, something happened, someone might be interested. So I hope this clears up a bit where we use which service. So with that, let's have a look at the recent releases for Service Bus. So, like I said, Ignite was just around the corner, like just finished, and we actually did some very interesting announcements. So the first announcement that we did was the general availability of the minimum TLS picker. So the minimum TLS picker basically allows you to set your minimum TLS version. So when you connect to Azure, you do this over a TCP channel, of course, and on that channel you have your TLS encryption. Now, before we had this feature, basically all our namespaces were TLS 1.0 encrypted, unless you actually put in a support request. You could get a version 1.2 on a different cluster, but it was something that we had to do for you. Now with the TLS picker, you can actually just choose it yourself on namespace creation, or afterwards on configuration. You can set the minimum TLS version to either 1.0, 1.1 or 1.2. And any connection that is below with the lower TLS version will just be dropped. So they cannot even establish a connection to your service. And also we changed, because like I said, before we had 1.0 as our default. Now we have the TLS 1.2 as our default. So we're already on that higher security, on better security. And this will actually be by default. But like I said, during your namespace creation or afterwards with configuration, you can always change this. So if you are working with legacy systems or something like that, you can always change this. And finally, this was actually released both for Service Bus and Event Hubs. So Service Bus and Event Hubs share quite a bit of the same architecture. So this was released on both of those services. Next up, Service Bus Explorer. And this has also gone generally available. So for those that have worked with Service Bus before, you probably know the open source Service Bus Explorer. It's a tool that has been was created by Paolo Salvatori a couple of years ago and has been maintained by the community mostly. And it's a great tool, like don't get me wrong, it's really an amazing tool, I love this tool. But of course it's maintained by the community. So a lot of our customers were asking us like, hey, can you build something for us that's maintained by Microsoft? Because that way we know it will be supported, we can actually use our Microsoft support if we run into issues. And we can also get a bit more input on features, etc. So what we did is we integrated this Service Bus Explorer that you see here on the screen. We integrate that into the portal. So this means that wherever you are, but no matter what device you're running on, if this is Windows, Linux, Mac OS, it doesn't matter, you can always work with this. And this is also a big improvement on that standalone tool, that open source tool, because it was Windows only. So a lot of our customers that were on Linux or on Mac could not use this. Now anyone that can open a portal can use this. It's also integrated with Azure AD, also something that open source tool was missing, unfortunately. So we have two authentication modes. We have basic authentication, or we have authentication using keys, SES tokens, or you can use Azure AD to authenticate. And our tool is now Azure AD integrated. One caveat there is at the moment you do still need data owner or permissions. So it's something that we are going to work on, but at the moment you will need data owner permissions. More granular RBAC will become later, but more on that in a moment. So we implemented most of the most used features from the standalone tool. So we actually took a look at what are most of our customers doing with the standalone tool. And what we saw that most of them are peeking messages, receiving messages, sending messages, and then doing operations on those messages. So we took that functionality and we put that into the portal. Now, as we are going forward, like I said, we are going to GA, like this is now GA. But as we are going forward, we will be introducing more features. Like I already said, the granular RBAC, for example, but also other features. So if there's anything that you would like to see, please let us know. And at the end of the presentation, I will share how you can do this. But yeah, we definitely want to hear from you what you would like to see on a tool like this. And so the third one, is actually the third and the fourth one together, because these are actually two different features. But we combine them together into one performance improvement feature. So the first one is scaling partitions. And scaling partitions is introducing partitions on Service Bus Premium. So we already had partitions on Service Bus Standard. But on Service Bus Premium this works a bit different. So a little bit more on that. And so Service Bus scaling partitions allow you to enable partitions on your namespace And as you can see in the screenshot, you can, once you enable it, you'll get the option to specify the number of partitions. And what this actually does, it allows you to scale between, during public preview, during 1 and 4 partitions, between 1 and 4 partitions. So what that means is if you have one partition, you can go up to 16 MU, 16 MU. So, and each messaging unit is basically that resource that we reserve for you. So a specific amount of hardware, like as in CPU, in memory, etc. So by scaling this up to 16 MUs, you can have more throughput, you can process more messages. Now with 16 MU, we have still had customers coming to us like, we need more. We have very large throughput projects. We need more scalability. So this is exactly what this does. So by adding more partitions, you can create more MUs as well, because you will get 16 MU per partition maximum. So if you scale up to 4 partitions, you now have 64 messaging units. So it really allows you that much higher scalability, where you really need like high throughput, tens of thousands of messages, those kind of scenarios. And so the focus here was really on that high throughput scenarios, where absolute order might be a little bit less important, because of course you have different partitions, and behind the scenes these are actually different namespaces. Of course for you it's just a single namespace, like you have one namespace that you connect to, where you send your messages in, where you receive your messages. But behind the scenes, basically what we are doing, we are spinning up resources for multiple namespaces and abstracting that away from you. But it also means that if you send in a message, it will be automatically distributed over those different partitions. Now, you can still have your relative order preserved. Your order preserved. So the relative order is still preserved on a single partition. And if you need absolute order on your messages, for example, these messages should be coming into the same partition in order because these belong together. You can do this using partition keys, which will also always send them to the same partition, or using sessions, which actually will make sure that they not only are sent to the same partition, but even are being processed in order by the receiver. So the second one, so the first one is that, like I said, scaling partitions, high throughput, so that's the first one. The second one is consistent low latency on your entities. And we do this through a multi-tiered storage system as we move to local store. So local store is our implementation on storage. And basically what we are doing is we are shifting from using Azure storage to using this multi-tiered storage. So our first entry point will be our local storage. So we are running on Service Fabric, and so our data will be stored with our applications in Service Fabric at first. And then there will be some moving over, overflowing, etc. to Azure storage as needed. But because we are hitting that local storage first, we will get lower latency and more consistent low latency. Because we don't have to have any more network hops to Azure storage. And also because we don't have this, we also don't have any issues when the network is down, Azure storage is having issues. So it also vastly improves our reliability. So those are the things that are coming now. Now let's have a quick look at what's coming soon. So coming soon is the stuff that we are currently working on, and private previews will be coming probably in the next weeks to months. So this is stuff that will actually be coming like soon-ish, like soon is of course relative. At least in the coming weeks to months you should be able to get into a private preview for this. And so the first one is dead letter queue batch delete. So it allows you to delete messages, as it says, from that letter queue, and allows you to delete messages in batches. So at the moment you would have, if you want to delete all messages from a queue, you would actually have to receive and delete all of them, which takes a lot of time, a lot of processing power. With this you can just say, I want to delete the first 4,000 messages, for example. And what happens is actually that you don't have to receive them anymore. So you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the processing power of actually receiving them and then deleting them. We'll actually delete them on our service side. And the first focus is actually on the dead letter queue. We are thinking if we also want to bring this to the other queues, but our first focus will be on that dead letter queue. And we are going to integrate this with Service Bus Explorer as well. So we actually have a purge button probably, where you can just say, okay, delete all these messages, or maybe like put in some filters. But we are still like not quite there yet. Like there's still some things that we are working on, but it will be integrated with Service Bus Explorer. And if you have any comments on this, like how you'd like to see this, then definitely let us know. And we also are looking into the possibility to evolve this further into a full queue purge. So at the moment, like I said, we will be deleting this in batches, and there's actually good reason for that because it has to do with performance, etc. But we do want to hear from you if this will be something that you can work with, or if you actually need like a full queue purge instead. So please give us that feedback and share that with me. Next up is durable terminus. And so very quickly, because not everyone might be familiar with the term terminus. So terminus in AMQP is actually the endpoint state of your connection. So your terminus is basically where your link connects on. So the terminus is really where your connection is happening. And so a durable terminus, as it states, like it will be a durable link, a durable connection. And why are we doing this? We do this because we are seeing that as customers are moving more to containers, to distributed systems, to multi-cloud, etc., that the connections are getting less stable. Like everything was fine and dandy when you're at a VM next to Service Bus and all was very close to each other. But with containers that can just stop working at any moment, that can just be thrown away, can be created anew. With distributed systems where you have lots of network hubs that might be down, that might get broken. We see a lot of links being broken, where you might be working on a message, you are processing it, the link gets broken, and what happens is once you come back to complete that message, it will actually tell you you don't have a lock on this message anymore. And at that point you actually have to go back and redo your work all from the beginning again. And that's something that you don't want, especially with long running work, because that's work that you already did. It might have already been committed to different systems. So if you have to restart that work, it's really hard. And also it's just a waste of resources. So durable terminus actually allows to recover a broken link. So if your link gets broken for any reason, your connection got severed, your client went down but comes back again, our service went down, for example, during a restart before Windows update. There's a lot of different ways that the link can go down. But with durable terminus, you can just reconnect and the link will get back again. And it does this by keeping track of that full message state. So we'll keep track of your message logs, your session logs, etc. And when you reconnect, it will just know, okay, this was the last state this connection was in, and we'll just continue with that. And so this will definitely help on, like I said, like when you are an unstable connection, if you are running on containers, etc. This will definitely help get that workload much better, much safer, much more reliable. And this one is very exciting, I think. Geo-data replication. Like I said early on, we already have geo-replication, but only for metadata. And so metadata is basically your topology of queues, topics, subscriptions, etc. Now with geo-data replication, we're actually going to give you full data replication across multiple regions. So we actually will give you not only the metadata, which is basically just your queues and topics, etc. Now also the data that is in your those entities. So actually the data that is in your queues, in your topics, in your subscriptions, will also be replicated. And we will give you two different options. So strong consistency, where if you commit something, it will first be replicated all different locations, all different regions, before we say, okay, it's now committed, or at least to a quorum, because we are actually thinking to give you multiple locations, multiple regions. So actually what we are going to do probably is using a quorum, where as long as more than half has said yes, we have received it, then you'll get back to 200 okay. We also have like a eventual consistency or a strongly bound consistency or something like that, where basically you can say, okay, send this in, the order should still be preserved, but I don't have to wait for it to be replicated everywhere. As long as it's stored in my primary, then I am okay to continue. But of course you take a risk that you might lose some messages, because if that service goes down, like if your data center goes down, you might lose some messages. But on the other hand, it's much faster. So it's like that RPO versus RTO discussion. How fast should your commits be? How much the data can you lose? How fast should things be up again? So we'll give you a manual failover with siphoning options, or with, but basically this means is that you will be in charge of the failover. And when you do the failover, you can say, okay, I want to failover now, and I'm okay with losing some data, especially if you have that eventual consistency. You might say, okay, I just like my messages are not that important, I can lose some messages, just switch over right now and I want to continue work in my other region. Or maybe you will say, no, I need those messages, do the failover, but wait for those messages to be replicated, which means your RTO will be a bit longer, of course, because you have to wait for those messages to be replicated. On the other end, your RPO will be lower because you are going to that RPO 0, hopefully, where you are not losing anything. And what's really important here is we want to give you those different options. So once again, if you have input on this, please let me know. What are you looking for? What's important for your scenarios? And finally, the roadmap. Now, first, before we actually go to the features themselves, I do want to give some pointers. So this is all still in very early phase. So this is stuff that we might just be designing at the moment, like very early designs that we're just thinking about. Like I said, what we have shown so far has already been released, or is actually things that we are currently working on, that we are still might be polishing, but we know like this is how it's going to look like. What we are going to talk about now is very early phase. So there's no timelines to share yet. There's no promises being made here. Like things might change, things will change, so keep that in mind. And like I said, this is often still in a very early design phase, but this does allow you to give your input. Like if you want to talk about this, this is the perfect time to get in. Like I said, things will change as you go forward. So what I will be showing you today, what I will be telling you today will be changing. So don't expect what I will be talking about here today will be exactly what you will be seeing. It might be very close. It might also be quite different depending on feedback from the community, feedback from our customers, but also maybe technical limitations that we run into, etc. So that's something I want to give you, so that there's no promise here, but like I'm being very open here. We are talking very open about our roadmap here. So please keep this in mind. And like I said, your input is most welcome here. Like this is definitely where we want your input, because these are the things that we are currently designing, and this is the best moment to say, hey, I would like to see this, or I would like to see it this way. So please give your feedback, and like I said, I will give you that link later on where you can actually provide that feedback. Now, we already talked about Service Bus Explorer, so I already told you that it has gone into GA now. I also told you that we are still improving this. So we are going to first introduce more granular RBAC permissions. So what we are going to do is give you the opportunity to set your RBAC, for example, on a specific queue or a specific topic. We are going to give you the option to say, I want to see only message headers, but not message bodies. Those kind of things, that is what we are thinking of. So maybe you are allowed to pick a message but not receive it or delete it, etc. So really give more granular options so that you can say, for example, I have a third line support that can see messages, they might be able to resubmit them, but that's about it. They should not be able to see the message contents, or etc. Or maybe you want to have a specific queue that is visible by one customer but not by another. Those kind of things is what we want to do here. So that's actually something that we are currently working on to get the design out. So if you have any input on this, please let me know as soon as possible, because I'm definitely looking for input here. Another one that we are looking at is namespace level browsing. So at the moment, the Service Bus Explorer works just on a queue or topic or subscription level. So on an entity level. What we're also looking into, because that's actually something that the on-premise, the open source tool provides, is that you can just say, just open my namespace, I want to see all the different subscriptions and topics, queues, etc. And I just want to very quickly navigate through them. So that's not something that you have at the moment, but that is something that you are looking into, to have the namespace level browsing. So that's also something we are going to work on. And then the last improvement that we want to do is a standalone Service Bus Explorer. And yes, I know we just talked about there's already a standalone Explorer that's out there in the community. What we actually want to do is that standalone Explorer that we have now in the portal, also put this into tooling, maybe integrate this, for example, in Visual Studio Code or in Visual Studio. And those are the things that you can definitely give your input on as well, by the way. But yeah, so have it somewhere locally. So also for people that might not have access to the portal because of permissions, etc. They still probably want to be able to work with those messages. So they can then use this, and that's why I'm thinking like maybe Visual Code or something like that, where you're already working with your messages anyway, where you're doing your programming, to also work with those messages like in your development work, etc. So if you have input on that, please let me know. Next up, subscription metrics. So this is something that has been asked for by very many people. It's actually our top voted on Azure IDs. And basically what you are asking for is to provide metrics on topic subscription level. And we are going to do this. We are looking into ways to do this at this moment because because of the way that our internal logging system works is not as easy as you might think. And the main problem is like subscriptions can we allow for 10,000 10,000 topics per namespace. But each topic can have up to 2,000 subscriptions. Now if you have 10,000 topics, that's already quite a bit of metrics that are going to. Now imagine having in 2,000 subscriptions on each of those 10,000 topics, and you can imagine that this just explodes exponentially. And that's actually what we are running into, that because we do have those customers that actually have that many queues and topics and subscriptions, that we would run into issues with actually our logging, where our logging system would just be overloaded. So that's what we are looking into. And we have some very nice ideas on this, so it's actually like we are getting around on this. But what we want to do is actually provide those metrics on the topic subscription level. And you can then use that in your alerts, on your dashboards. So you can actually see, okay, how many messages are in my subscription, how is my throughput, how many errors am I getting, etc. So you can get those alerts, you can get those dashboards. And even more importantly, we actually show this, you can actually use this for your auto-scaling. So you can actually scale your namespace, because on Premium, of course, you can do auto-scaling, where you can scale up or down depending on how many resources or on queue length or stuff like that. So we're actually going to allow you to auto-scale on that subscription length. So if you have many messages in the subscription, you might want to upscale your resources, and that way you will actually be able to use this to scale your namespace up to the way you need it to be, and also of course scale it down again once that has been done. So the final one I want to talk about, and also the most interesting one, it's very controversial, I would say, like we have been talking about this quite a bit. A lot of community members have been giving input that they want something like this. And of course Microsoft also wants something like this. Like we are actually looking into this, that we are looking how can we give this in a way that makes sense for the community, for our developers, for our customers, and also for ourselves of course. But yeah, we are working on this, and once again, if you have any input, please let me know. But what we are looking into is having a cross-platform containerized experience for development and testing purposes. So a couple of important parts in this sentence. So it has to be cross-platform. We want you to be able to run this on Windows, on Linux, on Mac, wherever you want. Because we think it's important that you can run your tools, you can develop, you can test wherever you want. We are going to for a containerized experience. We might also have like a standalone tool next to it, but we definitely want that containerized experience because we got a lot of input from the community that they want this for the testing pipelines, etc. But it's very easy to just spin up a container, run the test, spin down that container again, and be done with it. And for development and testing purposes, so we are going to look into what makes sense from a development and testing perspective, like what features would you need, and how should this look like. You will be able to run this locally and from a test pipeline. So once again, of course, we are going to look at how we can incorporate this maybe in existing tooling, but also how you can very easily run it in your test pipeline. And so we also think about how can we make sure that it spins up very fast, so that when you run a test, you should not have to wait minutes for something to spin up in the background. No, it should spin up very fast so that you can do your test, get immediate feedback, and then continue. And this is also something that we are looking into now, like what functionality do you need for dev test environments? So of course, like you will need your queues, you need your pops up, but there's a lot of features in Azure Service Bus that you probably won't need in a dev test environment. Like very easy example, GeoDR is probably not something that you want in the local emulator. So we are looking into, okay, what should be in there, what shouldn't be in there, what should be in there from day one, what might be more like a stretch goal that we might be able to add later. So please, if you have input on this, like I would definitely like to hear it. and discuss this with you, because this is definitely one thing that is very on top of mind for me. Because we do want this, we just need to make sure that we give the best experience here. So with that, we're almost done. A couple of takeaways I want to give you before we head off. So first of all, Service Bus, we are really building this for reliability and for resilience. We really try to make sure that your workloads are safe, your workloads are highly available, they are very resilient, they will never go down, and that you'll never lose a message. And that last part is actually one of our credos, like we have a whole manifest. But yeah, we are never allowed to lose any of our customer messages. So this is something that we always take in mind whatever you are building, that we have that scalability, that availability, that reliability, and that security always there. As you will also see, we are continuously evolving. Like we are continuously looking at what does the market need, what does our customer need, what are our customers trying to do with our services, and how can we make sure that we give them the best experience, we give them the best tooling, etc. So we are continuously evolving. That doesn't mean that we always have it right, but we always try to get it right. And if we don't, we try to make it right. So if you see something that you don't like, or also if you see something that you do like and want to see in other places, etc., please let us know. So please provide your feedback. This is really important to us, especially me as PM. My input, like what I'm bringing to the engineering team, is what you tell me. So if you want to see something, if you like something, if you dislike something, if you have thought of something very interesting, please let me know, and I will see what we can do. Like, of course, there's no promises, like we have to see how viable this is from different standpoints, but I always want to hear it, because most of our things actually have come from customer input, where we're like, that makes a lot of sense, let's look into this. So with that, I would like to say thank you. And here it is, like give us your feedback. Like reach out to me on Twitter if you like the session. Let me know what you thought about it. Reach out to me on my email if you have questions, if you have comments, etc., where you need some more words. We can always connect on LinkedIn. And the last two are very important. So aka.ms Azure Service Bus feedback. This is our Azure IDs. So please, if you have any IDs, put them there, or upvote them if it's already there. So upvote them, because this helps us a lot to keep track of what our customers are looking for, what the community is looking for, and where we should put our focus. And the last one is the aka.ms Service Bus latest and greatest feedback. So that's specifically for this session. And basically, I want you to tell me about what you saw today. What is your input on this? Of course, just general input on my session, but also if you have specific input on specific features, this is the way to go. And I will reach out to you if you want to, and we can set up a meeting. We can have a meeting, like a Teams call or whatever, and we can talk about your scenarios, what you are using this for, and how you would like to use this. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. Please keep safe, stay safe. Hopefully we will be seeing each other very soon again. I miss your beautiful country, and I miss everyone there. So everyone, stay safe and see you soon.
Eldert, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you for your talk. I'm sure that participants found it useful. And we have some questions from participants. Let's discuss if you don't mind.
Awesome, perfect.
The first question, do you think the name Azure Service Bus is apt? A lot of people say that it's not really a service bus, but just a regular queue. What makes a service bus an actual service bus, and what is your thoughts?
Yeah, so service bus, of course, you can see service bus as two different things. Like one, it's actually like a pattern, so the enterprise service bus. Yeah, I agree. Service bus itself is not an enterprise service bus as in the whole thing. It's part of that. But also, like the service bus is just it's a bus, so it's really about queues, topics, pops up. So and this is actually an interesting conversation. Like also that we might have like service bus is something from like years ago. And we are actually looking into like, should we maybe rename this at some point, or should we keep with this name? So also like I would like to have input from people there. But yeah, I think it's like definitely enterprise message queuing. But it's more than just queues. Like I said, there's pops up there. There's a lot of different opportunities that you have there with different features. So yeah, I'm open for suggestions there. Like I said, we are definitely always looking into this. I don't think we'll change the name easily, but we are looking into some different things around Service Bus and other services around messaging, where we basically want to let people know that yes, we are not just Service Bus. We are more than we are part of the bigger messaging story. So we are looking into like how can we convey this? What is Service Bus used for? When should you use this? It's also why I had that slide in the beginning. When would use the Service Bus? When would use the other services? So like I said, I agree that it sometimes is not quite clear, but I do also think that because of the years that you have had the name, that most people will know by now. But also we are looking into, is this the right name, or should we maybe going in forward also think about making the name a bit different so that people right away know like this is an MQ solution and this is where I should be using this for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And we have more questions from participants. What is the best way to submit feedback based on my experience using Azure Service Bus in my team?
Yeah, so depending on what kind of feedback, like I said, of course, you can email me directly if you have specific feedback on your use case. If you're running into something, or if you want to know about something like the Azure Messaging PM email address, you can use that for that. I'm watching that together with other people, so if there's any feedback there. If it's more general feedback, like hey, I would like to see this new feature, I follow this interesting thing, use Azure IDs. So Azure IDs is basically just a forum where you can post this. People can upvote it, so they can actually tell like, hey, I want this as well. And we use this actually internally for tracking on new features, because we keep an eye on this. And if we get a lot of requests in there, it also helps us prioritize this. So depending on what kind of question that you have or what kind of input you have, like email to me directly, or you use Azure Feedback. Or if it's more of a technical, like maybe something that you might run into on the technical part, we also have our GitHub issues, so you can also go there and actually for more technical parts.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope that participants enjoyed the answer. And there is Alexei writes, I remember having to use Azure Service Bus emulator locally in the past, and it was a total nightmare. It kept crashing and the overall experience was terrible. We have since moved to AWS. Were there any improvements done since then?
Yeah, so the local emulator, so that is probably the Service Bus for Windows Server. It's not supported anymore actually, so we actually moved it out of support because also we could not give it attention that it deserved. And this is actually what we are now looking into with a new local emulator, so that will be a new feature. It will completely be a new thing. So the Service Bus on Windows Server was really like you installed your own local Service Bus basically. But yeah, just because of the way it was set up, it was not quite working as we wanted. And also just because there was no way to actually get support on this properly. Basically kind of bled out. We didn't get to give the support that it deserved. So that's what we are looking into now with new and local emulator feature that I just talked about. That we want to make sure that you will get an experience that we can give you a good experience, that you get the right tooling for a dev test environment, that you can run this for locally, that you can run this from your test pipelines, and also in such a way that we can keep supporting this going forward. So that's actually the discussions that we are having now. That's why we want to have this input from our customers, from the community, see what are people looking for, what do they need there, how do they want to use this, so that we can actually give that right experience and we don't make the same mistake that we have done in the past. So we are also, of course, looking at other services in Azure, like Cosmos DB has an emulator, Storage has an emulator. So we are also working together with those other teams to see, hey, how did you do this? How did you decide what you put in there? How are you making sure that when we are going forward, that we keep supporting this, that we keep giving people the best experience? So, like I said, there's not a single answer like this is what we are going to do, but it's definitely like we are looking into it, and we do hear it. We know that we made a mistake with what we did before, and that's what we are learning from. We still have customers that really liked what we had before, but we do also have a lot of customers that it was a good initial part, but it was not quite where it should have been. So we are looking into making that better. And with new local emulator, that's definitely something that we want to make sure that we give the right experience so that people don't have these kind of issues anymore.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. We are a little bit of time, so thank you, Eldert, again for your talk. And I'm proposing you to continue our discussion in Discord.
I will do. And so thank you so much.
Okay.
And like I said, hopefully next time we can do this in person again and we can all be together again, because I missed, like I said, I missed the country, I missed the people there. So hopefully next time we can do this in person again. And until then, like I said, everyone, please stay safe and know that we are out here and that we are all thinking about you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really hope for this as well. Thank Eldert.